Hey everyone, my name is Riley and this video is a beginner's tutorial on how you can create your first Excel spreadsheet. Now, the spreadsheet that I will be creating in this video is going to be that of a finance tracker. However, no matter what type of spreadsheet you are creating, you will still be able to follow along with the general concepts that I speak about in this video. And I will try to keep this as broad as possible so that no matter what type of spreadsheet you are creating, you will still be able to follow along and apply these concepts. So the first thing that you will notice is that when we click around, wherever we click, this green box is going to follow us. And this is the selected cell, the cell that we can currently edit. So let's start out in the top left corner to start out this spreadsheet. And all we have to do to edit a cell is double click on that cell and you will see we can now start typing text. So let's start this off with the month. We can enter in the month right there. And then let's add two more columns. We will add income right here. So we'll go for income and then let's also add expenses. Now, what we can also do when we have some text in here is we can use this bar along the top to really start editing the text that we have just entered. So for example, we can click on month right here. Now this box is highlighted and along the top, we can click on this B button to bold this. We can also make this in italics and then we can also underline the text right here. Now I'm just going to go back and leave this only as bold. And then what you can also do is if you want to change multiple columns or cells at the same time, we can simply click on a cell and drag this along. And as you can see, it's going to select all of these different cells. So if we click and drag right here, now both of these are going to be highlighted and we can use this bold button to make these both bold. We can also fill the behind boxes with color using this fill color option right here. If we click on this drop down menu, it's going to open up all of these colors. And as you can see, if I hover over each of these, it's going to give me an example of what this is going to look like. So let's first of all go to income and I want to set this entire column. So I'm going to click and drag down. Then I'm going to set this to green. Then expenses, we can once again click and drag. And I'm going to set this to red right here. Then for the month, let's have this all nice and congruent. So let's set this to a nice yellow color. And as you can see, I do now have some color on my chart. So that is how you can set up color right there. And if you want to go back, if you have made a mistake at any point, all we have to do is go up to this undo button in the top left corner. We can click undo. That's going to undo the change that I just made. The final thing that I want to cover in this section is how we can actually change the font. So right here, if we highlight this box, we can change the font size. As you can see, that's going to get bigger and smaller. And we can also change what font this actually is. But let's just go back for now. Now we can enter in the months. So I'm going to enter in this box and start typing in January, then February, then March. And when we start doing this, Microsoft Excel is actually very, very smart. Because if we now highlight all of these three boxes, and you see this little kind of dial on the bottom or this little green box, what we can now do is click on that, and if we drag down, Microsoft is going to autofill the rest of these months because it sees kind of like a pattern here. Now we can do the same thing with numbers. If I go for 1, 2, and 3, and then highlight all of these and grab this little box to drag it down, it's going to notice the pattern that we have and follow this all the way down. So we can do the same. Let's say we were doing this in 2s. So we go 2, 4, and 6. Then we can highlight this. And if we drag this down, it's going to populate this in the same way with the same pattern. We can also do this just as the final example with days of the week. So if we select Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we can highlight these three and drag this down just like that. And it's going to autofill the rest of the days. So that is the autofill function. I'm just going to go here and delete these. And another thing that I should actually mention is you can zoom in and out to your spreadsheet at any point. So to do this, just go down to the bottom right hand corner and we have the current zoom level. So if we want to zoom into the spreadsheet, we can click on this plus icon. And as you can see, that's going to zoom us in right here so that we can get a better view. We can also zoom back out using this arrow in the bottom left corner. And you can see we can go pretty far out right here, but we don't want to do that. So let's actually zoom in to a relatively comfortable level. So we have this nice and large, just like this. And then we can start entering in the rest of the data points. So let's say in January, we made 2,500. Then in February, we made 4,000. So I'm just going to give it some random data points right here, but you would just fill this in with the correct details. And then I'm going to do the same for expenses over on this far side. So as you can now see, I have all of my data points in right here. I have my income and I also have my expenses. Now, what we can also use Excel as is almost like a calculator. So let's say at the bottom here, I wanted to go for the total and see how much I made in the income and the expenses. What we can now do is if we go to these data points and click and drag all of these, if we look down here at the bottom, this is going to tell us the average. So I can see on average each month I made 3,649. Now we can also see there are 12 columns in this area. So there are 12 cells that we have highlighted. And the sum of all of these is 43,798. We can also change the data shown here by clicking on this arrow, and then we can choose from any of these. So we can see the min right here. The least I made in one single month is 1,349. That is this month right here, June. And the most I made in a month is 9,485. And that is September right here. If we want to add these to the status bar, we can simply click on these. And as you can see, the max and the minimum is now added. And if we want to take any away, let's take count away. That is now going to disappear. What we can also use with Excel is something called formulas. This is how instead of manually selecting these data points, we can essentially use Excel to automate this entire process for us. So if we click into one of these boxes, you can see we have this FX icon, and this is for different functions that we can add to Excel. So if we click into this, you can see we have all of these different pre-made functions. So let's say that I automatically want this to calculate and keep up with my income, and I don't want to have to go and manually add this and type this in myself every time. What we can do is click on the total box right here and then go up to the function, and we can choose the sum function. So the sum function is going to add all of these up. The average function is going to figure out the average monthly income. The count is going to calculate how many cells are in here. And then the max and min are going to show me the highest and the lowest months. We also have a few others. However, these are a little bit more advanced and I will not be covering these in this tutorial. So let's just add a sum right here. And it's now going to ask for the numbers that we want to combine. So number one, we can enter in the first data point that we want to collect, which is this one right here. We need to enter in the cell number. So we can see that this cell, which contains the first data point, is going to be B3. So we can enter in B3 right here. Alternatively, you can make this even easier by just selecting the cell that you want, and it's going to automatically enter in here. And then you would think logically that all we would have to do is now go down and just add in all of these data points one by one. However, this is really not the best way to do this. And instead, all we are going to do is go back to number one, and a much easier way to transfer all of this data rather than having to enter it manually is this is B3 right here. So we enter in a colon. And then if we enter in the colon, we can just select this bottom piece of data right here. And it's now going to collect all of the information from here to here, saving us a lot of time. So we can see this is the function result, 43,000. And if we click on insert, it's now going to add. So that is how we can add the total right there. However, if we want to automate this, let me just delete this for now and add the total back in down here. You will see where I'm going with this. But let's do this again. So we can select this, sum, starting off once again with B3. But then instead of only collecting this data, I want to collect new data that comes in. So instead of entering in B14, I'm actually going to enter in B16. And now it's going to collect all of this data, even though this data isn't entered. So once again, let's click on insert, and we are of course going to get 43,000. But let's say next year in January, I add another 5,000 to this list. Now watch this number right here. As soon as I click enter on 5,000, that is automatically going to update and give me a new total. Then I can do this with February as well. So let's go Feb. Let's enter in another 5,000. And that's going to jump up once again. However, if I enter this in right here for March, that's not going to change. And the reason for this is simply because we didn't select this as a data point. So if I do want to add this in, all I have to do is select this cell once again, the total cell, and then I can go up and just change B16 to B17 or even B18, and I can extend how far this is going to calculate. We can also add in maybe like the average right here. Then we would just go up to function, select the average, and then do the exact same thing. So if I want to figure out my average income, I go B3, this box right here, to B17. And then my average monthly income is going to be shown here. And then let's do the same for expenses. So we highlight this box. Then we can do average C3 to C17. All of those are now highlighted, and that is added in right there. So that is how you can create your first Excel spreadsheet. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to smash that like button and tap that subscribe button. And until next time, take it easy.